This lens, the Sigma 18-35mm f1.8, came out in April of 2013. So by now, this is a 7-year-old lens. So why did I buy this old lens in 2020, and does it still hold up with other lenses in 2020? Let's find out. Hi, my name's Roger, and on this channel we talk about cameras, tech gear and videography, and sometimes photography. And if this is something that you're into, please hit the subscribe button down below. So, like I said in the beginning, this lens came out in April of 2013. It's designed for cropped sensor cameras, and at the time, this lens made a good stir in the lens market, because a lens like this had not been seen before. A wide zoom lens with a consistent aperture of 1.8 was unheard of. And of course, as it always is with new things, people were skeptical if the lens could deliver a sharp and clean image with an aperture this wide, and at that price point. You practically get 2 to 3 prime lenses in just one lens, and you would have to pay a lot of money for those primes in order to get the same focal distance. Now, the price of this lens in Norwegian currency is 8,295 kroner, all included. And in US dollars, that amount sums up to $892. But if we do a quick Amazon search, you can get this lens for 618 bucks plus taxes and shipping. And the versatility of this lens when it comes to how many cameras and mounts you can put it on, it's just mind-blowing. You can get the Sigma 18-35 lens with an EF/EF-S mount. You can put this on a Sony E mount. You can put it on Olympus cameras, Panasonic cameras, Blackmagic Cinema Pocket camera, Fuji mount. It's adaptable to almost any camera. The physical build quality of this lens is a mix of metal and plastic construction. It's a heavy and sturdy lens, and comparing this lens to other native M-mount lenses, I mean, this one is a beast. It weighs 874 grams and it is 14 centimeters long. And because of the internal zoom this lens has, the length of the lens stays consistent. The focal length is, as we have said, 18 to 35 millimeters. And the focal length is a full frame equivalent of 28.8 millimeters all the way up to 56 millimeters. It has a 9 rounded blade aperture. The aperture is at the widest, like we have said, 1.8, and you can close it down all the way to f16. Now, f16, it's not that much actually, because if we compare that to this EF M22mm, this one can close down all the way to f22. And because that this can't close down as much, for video, I highly recommend that you get a variable ND filter. It has a 72mm filter thread, and as I've said before, when it comes to ND filters, get a big ND filter and then buy step down rings, so you can use the same filter on multiple lenses that don't have the same filter thread. The lens has a consistent aperture of f1.8. So if you want to, you can have it all the way at f1.8 all the way through the zoom range of the lens. The lens is made for cropped sensor cameras, and the version that I have right here, it has an EF/EF-S mount. So if you have cameras like Canon 90D, for example, this lens will fit right onto that camera because the 90D has an EF/EF-S mount. But if you have cameras like me, like the M6 Mark II or the M50, like the M6 Mark II or the M50 that I'm shooting on, you will have to get the Canon EF to EF-M adapter. You can also use a speed booster with this lens, but since the lens is made for crop sensor cameras, using a speed booster will give you a heavy vignetting in the widest part of the lens. Now, I did a comparison using the speed booster with this lens and the Canon EF to EF-M adapter, and when it comes to the result using the speed booster, you have to zoom this lens all the way into 24mm to avoid the vignetting. And as you can see, that's the same framing as we had with the regular adapter. You can use the lens on full frame cameras, but then you have to use it on cameras or full frame cameras like the Canon EOS R and RP that has a crop to the 4K, because those cameras have a 1.7 crop in 4K, and with that crop you won't see the vignetting in the corners. Now, Sony cameras, they have an APS-C mode in their cameras, so if you use this lens on Sony camera, you just switch mode and then you can use that without any problems. The fixed aperture of 1.8 in this lens lets in a lot of light. In its days when this lens came out, in April of 2013, it was the first zoom lens with that wide aperture. So this lens is great for low light situations. And since I am using a crop sensor camera like the Canon M6 Mark II and the Canon M50, I welcome everything that might help me get more light into my sensor. This lens has an internal zoom. It's a non-telescopic zoom lens, so the zoom elements stay inside of the lens. There is no image stabilization in the lens, so that lens has an internal zoom makes it better to use with gimbals or glide cams or a Steadicam. The problem with the zoom lens on the gimbal is that when you have the gimbal balanced and then want to change your framing by zooming in or out, your stabilizer won't be balanced anymore, and you have to put it down, rebalance it again, and then when you're ready to get the shot, maybe the shot has gone. So what's nice about this lens is that it has that internal zoom. So if you want to change your composition a bit or zoom in or out using this lens, the shifting of the weight is inside of the lens. So you won't have that impact on the gimbal and you're still able to maintain a steady, stabilized shot. The lens is a wide angle zoom lens and it has a restricted zoom range from 18 to 35. Normally, we're used to a zoom range of 2x or more, but with this lens, you don't get that. Now, if you don't know what I mean, many of you probably do, but I like that everybody knows what I'm talking about. And in my opinion, there are no stupid questions. So if you have any questions regarding what I'm talking about today or in any other video, no matter how newbie the question might be or how stupid you think the question might be, leave a comment in the comment section down below and I will try answering them if I can, and maybe if I can't answer them, some of the other viewers might be helpful. But back to what I said. So what I mean with the 2x zoom range is that if you take the kit lens that comes with the Canon M6 Mark II and the Canon M50, it has 15 to 45mm in focal length, and this lens is a zoom lens. If you take the widest angle possible on this lens, which is 15mm, and multiply that with 2 times, you get 30mm. That's a 2x zoom on this lens. And the lens goes all the way up to 45mm, so this lens has more than a 2x zoom capability. And if we go back to the main lens of this video, the Sigma 18 to 35, this has a focal length of 18 to 35. And if we take the widest angle, 18mm, and multiply that with 2, you get 36mm. And this lens goes up to 35. So it's not a 2x zoom lens, just almost a 2x zoom lens. The zoom ring is rubberized and turns the opposite way from Canon lenses. This might be confusing in the beginning, but it doesn't take that much time to get used to it. And I think actually I prefer it zooming the other way. It is smooth and precise zoom, and that makes it great for zooming while filming. Normally, if you try zooming with other lenses while filming, you get that jiggery movement. You zoom in, it stops for a second or a millisecond, and then you get that small jerky movement. It's difficult to get a smooth zoom while filming. But with this lens, it's a lot easier because of the smooth and precise zooming. I think it has a really professional feel to it. You don't get changes in light levels while zooming. That, in the combination of the smooth zoom ring, makes it possible to get really nice cinematic footage with this lens. There is no image stabilization in the lens, but the weight of the lens will make it more easy to get more smooth and stabilized handheld footage. And as it is a wide angle lens, that will also help to get that smooth footage. This lens matched with my M6 Mark II in 120 frames per second in full HD, I mean even in 60 frames per second in full HD, makes the footage that comes out of my camera really smooth, sharp and cinematic. Like the zoom ring, the focus ring is also rubberized. Smooth and precise and great for pulling manual focus during filming. There are no other buttons on this lens except from the autofocus to manual focus toggle switch. Autofocus motor is really fast, but when using the internal microphone on your camera, it might pick up the sound of the autofocus. But if you're using an external microphone, this is probably not a problem. The autofocus of the lens nails it most of the times, but sometimes it struggled while I was testing it, and I had to touch the screen on my camera to let the lens know what I wanted to focus on. But overall, I'm quite happy with the autofocus. The sharpness of the lens goes through the entire zoom range. If you take a look at some of the photos that I've taken, you can see that it is sharp in every scenario. The close focusing range of this lens makes it possible to get some macro shots. If you get it at its closest focusing distance, which is 28 centimeters, and then zoom all the way into 35 millimeters, you can get some decent macro possibilities. So to make a summarize of this lens, it is a wide and a standard and a zoom lens all in one lens. And with a constant aperture of f1.8, it's like having 2 to 3 primes in one lens, but with a much better price. This lens can more or less replace a set of primes across its range with minimal compromise in image quality. It's a really versatile lens, and that makes it good for videography, but it also makes it good for photography. You can use this lens for landscape, street photography and portrait photography, and results will be great. It produces a really good quality image, and it is a really good cinematic lens when it comes to filming. So overall, I'm really stoked about this lens, and I'm really happy that I bought it. I have been using the Nifty 50 for quite a while now, and it's good for its specific use, but the Sigma 18-35 for now is my favorite lens. So that's it for this week. I hope you got something out of this video, and if you did and want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel, and if you like this particular video, hit that thumbs up button too. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I got the DJI Mavic Air 2. I've had it out a couple of times, but with a lot of bad weather lately and me working full time, I've not been able to test it out properly yet. But my plan is to make a review video about the DJI Mavic Air 2, so keep a lookout for that in the future. I've also planned a video about the M6 Mark II and its possibility to record on a clean HDMI out, so that's also in the works. So if you're interested in any of this, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell too, and then you will get a notification when I come out with any of those videos, and hit that thumbs up button if you like this video. So that's it for this week, and maybe I will see you in one of those other videos. Bye.